Again, all these things you have to take into consideration when you're thinking about companionship and relationships. Because to me, you have to find five key elements as a man when you're looking for somebody. And those five key elements are this: somebody that's headstrong, mentally strong, that if they have a tough situation, they can't instantly break down. They need somebody who's spiritually strong and emotionally strong. From the standpoint, I was watching Love and Hip Hop, and a lot of these people that I not really follow, but for some reason they end up on my timeline because people that I follow end up retweeting it back out about this girl on Love and Hip Hop, and y'all may know who she is. And every time that she gets into a conversation with her boyfriend, at first she could just be really mad at him, and then he said, you know, girl, I ain't got time for your mess. And all of a sudden, she just break down and start crying and just start hugging and talking to him. And other folks said, that's psychotic. Then one time they were at like a little cookout event, and she was clapping and stumping and clapping her hands and all this in her face. And then again, he told her something, and then when she finally got her way, she jumped up on him and gave him a hug, and he held her or whatever. That's mentally crazy when in 30 seconds you can switch from just bawling out crying to laughing and talk. That's not saying that it's mentally crazy, or that's not how can I put that? Your emotions are not stabilized, and you have to figure out within yourself how to spiritually be strong enough. Does that make sense? It's like fluctuating or not being that's being unstable. And that's just me being honest. It's not throwing no shade at the young lady or a young man who does that. You know, that's like going from somebody. And here's another example for my young sisters who watching this, or older sisters, whatever. If somebody constantly switching girlfriends, or constantly switching this and constantly switching that, and saying change is good if that person, but I mean constantly, you know, not just settling down, then that person is unstable. Then they've grown through a situation where they either were not raised right or were not raised correctly, or you know, the whole player thing is played out, you know. And that's not saying that, you know, you can't date and experience life, but at the same time, if you're constantly, and this is a tip for my bro, like I said again, this is for everybody to listen to and understand. If you're constantly moving back and forth without being like, okay, I'm gonna be with this person right here, but I'm gonna make sure I tell them that this is not serious, that I'm trying to figure out life. If you're doing this underhandedly and sneaky, and you're dating two people and neither one of them are aware that you're dating the other, it causes mess and it causes drama. And that's unstable. That's spiritually unstable. You're not taking the time to try to spiritually connect with that person. Because as soon as I find I'm not spiritually compatible with that person, two things are either going to happen. I'm either going to leave, or I guess some people say that you can change people, which may be true in a lot of cases, but in most cases, nah, it depends on, they gotta kind of want it for themselves to truly change. So you have to be spiritually compatible with that person, but they're not taking the time to spiritually figure that out. You gotta understand, relationships are more of a spiritual standpoint because we're spirit. Our flesh and bones and organs stay in this world. When we die, we're organ donor. We give our organs to the next person, but we can't do nothing with our bones. They're just calcium, so they go back in the ground, and that's where they stay until they decompose or they crumble or whatever happens to them. I believe they found dug some skeletons up back from a long time ago, but at the end of the day, they're part of the earth. We're spirit. How can our heart beat and we can't control our heartbeat? That's spirit. We're all spiritual beings in the one universal God that teaches us that He created us. But that each and every religion, again, like I said, and even science back it up, that God made us of the universe our physical, but not our spiritual. So relationship is a spiritual end. That's where they get the word soulmate from. You gotta understand every word has a definition. Every word has a ideology or idea behind it. Brother tweeted out the other day, he said government. Govern means control. Ment means mind, mental. So he said the true word of government is mind control. I'm not going to get into my conspiracy theory things again, but you understand that every word has root, has meaning to it. So soulmate means a spiritual mate or spiritual companion that you can be with and endure life with, because life is made of just not just the physical. You're gonna have some things that are gonna take a spiritual toll on you, and you need that person to be able to have your back through thick and thin. That you and her are so, you and him, you and her. Or, I'm using interchangeably because this is again a relationship for everything. I would make a relationship advice video solely for black males later, but you understand I'm trying to make this video interchangeable for everybody can listen to it. So for him, you and her, or you and him, you understand what I'm saying, can um, move forward and be correct in your thinking and in your mindset, and you all have each other back so much to a standpoint that it's basically the same person. Does that make sense? So again, you have all these things, and then too, I want to talk about this because there's a lot of topics to cover. Like second, I will do one for black males only, but I will try to cover it in a very simple, timely, oriented theory. And you may even have more questions than answers after that. But that's what I want you to do. I want you to question your spiritual, question your mental, ask why. That's the number one thing that we as adults forget to do. At once we turn 18, we're like, I'm an adult now, and we forget to ask why. But the smartest person in the universe is a little child, because even as he walks up the street and goes to the store, he asks his mother or father why, because he wants to know why are we doing what we do? Why am I exist? Why do I exist in the world? Even in his little mind, he doesn't understand that. He's asking, why is the system and structure like that? Why is food not automatically on the table when we're hungry? You have to work for it. You say, Daddy's got to go to work, and the little child instantly asks, why? Because I got to provide for the family. Maybe you explain to him in a very intricate and very non-adult way, but still he asks why, and you take that opportunity in that bright moment to teach him a little crystal of knowledge. So the smartest person in the world is a little child. Even the Bible and the Quran and anything teaches that a child is the most purest form. So we have to be very pure in our thinking, in our spiritual, and our mental if we want our relationships to grow and work. But anyway, another thing why relationships don't really work, particularly for us and things, and not saying they don't, because again, the statistics, no matter how people want to portray black men don't do this and don't do that, over 87, 88% of black males are married to black women. And this, you see what I'm saying? So again, the grade is very high, the number is very high for it to be like that. So don't listen to the negative stereotype. Denzel, J. Cole, Will Smith, all the most powerful leading men in America that I can think of are married to, you see what I'm saying, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, you understand, from past to present to now, Kendrick Lamar, all of them. So, Jay-Z. So I make the point is, again, that, statistics aren't what they are, but I'm going to say this, and then, like I said, again, I'm going to continue to make this video very smoothly. I pay attention to something. Black men complain, how just people in general complain in our communities that they can't find anybody. But it reminded me of something that was very funny, and to the standpoint, again, that everything in life is more of a spiritual awakening, a spiritual invitation, an opening, a mindset, even above the physical things, because physical things are just temporary. And to the standpoint that I think Pusha T said inside of a freestyle, he said, I feel like I'm doomed to dealing with women who relationship with their fathers won't allow us to bloom, or he say disconnect from their fathers won't allow us to bloom. And to the standpoint that the father not being in the household affects the black male and affects the young black lady in different ways, of course, but it affects them because your first love and understanding that you need to learn is the love from a father, that he needs to teach you how, not a physical standpoint, but from a caring standpoint, how somebody's supposed to treat you, how they're never supposed to call you out your name, how they're supposed to open up the door for y'all when you go to the store, go out to eat, that you should never have to carry the trash out a day in your life, that those certain things, that those basic behaviors, that nobody should never throw a temper tantrum, you see what I'm saying? And that when it's time to discuss things, you discuss them as adults and you don't bring immaturity inside of it. So at a young age, you can kind of see how things work. And particularly, this is the kicker right here. If you don't pay attention to the rest of the video, listen to this. If you don't understand how a family structure works, it is going to be at times hard, or for a lot of people impossible, to make it work. The Native Americans taught the young braves how to do things. In the black community, the OGs, if you don't have a dad, you are 19, you have an OG, a big brother or something, who kind of teach you ways. Maybe it's not the best advice ever, but you got somebody there who's experienced life who can kind of help you and teach you some things so that you don't fall into some of the traps that they fell into. Manhood is about learning things through experience. Womanhood is even about learning things through experience. So you need somebody there that's old enough. So listen to this. If you don't have a mother and a father in that relationship to teach you that dynamic, to teach you how to grow, to teach you how to what's the word I'm looking for? Compensate, or not compensate. What's the word when two people want to do two different things? So you figure out something that works for both of them. You figure out how to man, I can't think of the word, and but you figure out how to kind of figure out life period, that it helps everybody and that it works for everybody and that it's a blessing for everybody. So if you don't have that dynamic and family structure to see and watch, it is hard at times to kind of grow up and try to be in a relationship when you've never seen it. There's certain things that having kids scare you as a man because you never seen your father raise you. You see what I'm saying? So it reminds me, like I said again, that freestyle that Pusha T said that they've never seen it. Then with Young Black Males, I have a discussion. You can catch me on, again, Twitter at Brown Brother Web, where I have a discussion every second. I'm a part of participate. I didn't create this. Some great men created this called Send Our Boys to College. Not only do we talk about young black males in the educational system, we talk about even relationships and we talk about everything else. And he said, how can hip hop music influence them, and so forth and so on. And when we do mentorship, we don't need to teach them about our relationship and escapades. And I said, yeah, I understand that, not teaching them the graphic end of relationships, but teaching them relationships, period. Because if they never had the dynamic of a father in the household, or a stepfather, or maybe the mother's boyfriend or whatever, to see, and a good example, not just anybody, but a good example of how that dynamic works, man and woman, masculine and feminine energy, not clashing, but compensating and balancing themselves out in the household. That part love, part discipline, part fun, part parenting, part everything. That you don't understand what it's like. It takes two people to make a child. Now I know science is doing all this kind of weird stuff, but the way that God truly intended it, it takes two things to make that child. So you're basically a 50-50. Does that make sense? You're basically almost like a yin and yang, but there's no good and there's no bad. So basically, a child who doesn't grow up without a father, doesn't grow up without a mother, is not, maybe I wouldn't say taken away from that blessing, because there's a lot of circumstances in which you may have not grown up with the father and the mother, but you understand that you don't have that other 50% of yourself. Does that make sense? So anyway, um, young black women, like I said again, I just told you, the Pusha T freestyle, which are the most honest lyrics I may have ever heard in hip hop. And then now you got the young black males who grow up listening to music, and that's the only way they understand how to treat a woman, maybe, if they don't have mentorship. That's why I said mentorship is the unsung hero in the black community. Because if this is the only thing that you listen to, that a woman is worth, and I'm not gonna even say the graphic lyrics. You can go listen to any song in hip hop. That if that's all a woman is worth, that you think that she's worth, and that's all you hear that she's worth, and those are only men in your life, are these artists, are these clowns that tell you about black love and black relationships. Because 9 times out of 10, yeah, they may have the I don't even know what race Kim Kardashian is, but they may have those Kim Kardashian looking girls in their videos. But a lot of most videos, particularly like the trap music, has black women inside the video. Everything, pictures worth 1,000 words, visual aids. So the only time that you see true black masculine and feminine energy and that dynamic working together, and a family structure working together, or a man and a woman and black love, the only time that you see that is in those twerk, messed up, B word, calling every woman a this and a that. That's the only time you see that dynamic. So you begin to grow up on the things that you watch, and you begin to see them things as so. So just like a young black lady doesn't have the father in the household, a young black man who does not have a father in the household, or at least a good male example in his life to teach him right from wrong, he grows up with the misguided manhood. I'm telling y'all, it goes back, not saying that I got all the answers, but it goes back to my same thing that I say 1,000 times, that God revealed that phrase to me when I was even a teenager, before I even figured out what life was, misguided manhood. And to the point that all of it is manhood, but taught from a destructive angle that comes from the elites. To teach us not to bond and to live together and to love one another. Because if you can destroy black love, you instantly destroy the black community. Because not only does unity go along with that, which was the number one key for black people, but love, unity, and after you've gotten rid of love, love and peace are the same thing. You cannot have peace in a household without love. You cannot have love in a household without peace. You know what I'm saying? I'm breaking it down easy, and this is basically how I see things. It may not be the correct answer. It may not be the best answer. I may not be a pickup artist. I may not be Dr. Phil, whatever. But I'm giving you the best ideas. I may not be Oprah, but I'm giving you the best ideas that I know possible. Miss Oprah, excuse me. I no disrespect. And so I say all these things to say this. All these things are true because we do not have these things to cover us and to take care of us and to see these things correctly. So you got one side of the field who's saying he's not nothing. You got another side of the field, she's basic, she's this, she's that. But we never come together and figure out life for themselves. We've never seen the hurt and the pain in each other. I tweeted that out the other day. I said I never delete the rest of my tweets because you've seen me grow and progress. I've been on Twitter 2-3 years now. I've gone from being a child, now I am legally a man, and you've seen my ideas. I feel and I see people's hurt, pain, passion so much clearer even in a few years that I've grown and matured and advanced. And going to college, I've met so many new people from so many different cities and states and spiritual backgrounds and cultural backgrounds that I understand life so much clearer than I understood it when I was inside my own small bubble of life. So we see each other from so many angles that we don't take the time to look at each other's pains and hurts and struggles. And although, like again, you can't change nobody who doesn't want to be changed, but instead of us asking why that person is like that, we just see them as that. You know? It's crazy.